My name is Hank Mercer, and I've been a long-haul truck driver for over 25 years. I've driven through snowstorms in Montana, desert nights in Arizona, and twisted mountain roads in West Virginia. I've seen things on the road that would make your skin crawl, people standing still on the shoulder in the dead of night, eyes like glass, or things darting across the road that vanish before your brakes can even respond. But nothing compares to what happened to me 2 years ago when I took a load to a small town called Gray Pines in northern Oregon. I should have turned around the moment the dispatcher gave me the coordinates. Should have listened to that voice in my gut, the one that's kept me alive all these years. But I didn't. I took the job. I drove the route, and I barely made it out with my mind intact. It's any other delivery. I was parked at a truck stop near Eugene, sipping on bad coffee and waiting for my next load assignment. The call came around 3 p.m. Some company I'd never heard of, Pine Ridge Timber Company, needed a refrigerated load hauled to their mill in Gray Pines, just over the mountain range, about 6 hours away. The pay was triple the usual rate. That alone should have been a red flag, but I told myself maybe they were desperate or in a rush. Money talks in this business, and I wasn't about to argue with easy cash. I accepted the job. Within the hour, I was hooked up to a long white trailer. Unmarked cold air humming from the refrigeration unit. The shipping guy didn't say much, just handed me a clipboard and said, "Keep the doors closed. Don't stop unless you absolutely have to." Then he looked me in the eyes and added, "And whatever you do, don't open it, no matter what you hear." I laughed, thinking it was some kind of weird Oregon joke. He didn't laugh back. The drive started off peaceful. Forests stretched endlessly on either side of the highway, green and golden under the setting sun. I had the radio on low, humming along to classic rock, and the cab was warm and comfortable. The roads were mostly empty, just the occasional logging truck or pickup passing the other way. I kept thinking about how easy this job was going to be, until I turned off the main highway onto a narrow road leading to Gray Pines. That's when everything started to... The road was poorly maintained, with potholes and gravel patches that rattled my rig. The forest closed in tighter the further I drove, the trees leaning in like they were trying to block the sky. The air grew colder, and the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting everything in a pale blue light. I turned on my high beams, but even they seemed weak against the thickening darkness. My GPS started glitching, first freezing, then spinning like it couldn't decide where I was. Eventually it just shut off. Cell signal dropped too. I figured it was just the remote location, but something about the silence felt heavier than usual. Even the birds had stopped chirping. That's when I heard the first noise. It was a soft thump, like something shifting, maybe cargo sliding, but I hadn't seen anyone load anything when I hooked up. The shipping guy hadn't even told me what I was hauling. Just keep it cold and keep it closed. I tried to ignore it. Trucks make noises, trailers rattle. Still, I felt my hands tighten on the steering wheel. A few minutes later, there was another noise, louder this time. A knock. 3 distinct knocks on the inside of the trailer wall just behind my cab. I pulled over, heart racing. Sat there with the engine idling and stared at the side mirror. Nothing, just the dark road behind me and the forest pressing in from both sides. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped. The cold hit me like a wall. It wasn't just cold, it was wrong, like the air had no life in it. My boots crunched on frost-covered gravel as I walked to the rear of the trailer. I circled it slowly, shining the light across the metal walls. No dents, no signs of movement. I hesitated at the back doors. The handle was sealed with a heavy padlock, same one the shipping guy had locked himself. I reached out to touch the door, just to feel it. It was ice cold, far colder than any refrigerated unit should have made it. That's when I heard it again, this time from inside. A whisper, a soft, desperate whisper that said... I stopped, dropping the flashlight. I scanned the woods around me, heart pounding like a drum. My breath came out in thick white clouds. There was nothing, no movement, no animals, no wind. Just that heavy, crushing silence. I jumped back into the cab, slammed the door, and locked it. I told myself I must be tired. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe the cold and darkness were playing tricks on me. I cranked the heat and tried to keep driving, but the whispers didn't stop. They started coming every few minutes, sometimes soft like a breath, other times sharp like a scream muffled by thick walls. I turned the radio up, tried to drown them out, but they kept slipping through. It's cold. Let me out, please, help. Over and over. I yelled at them to shut up. Told myself it was just the trailer groaning, or wind leaking through the seals. But deep down, I knew better. Someone was in that trailer, and they were not alone. Around midnight, I reached the outskirts of Grey Pines, or what was left of it. The road ended at a rusted iron gate chained shut. A faded wooden sign hung crookedly from one of the posts. Welcome to Grey Pines, population 0. Beyond it, I could see the outline of old buildings, broken windows, sagging roofs. The town was dead, abandoned. I climbed out and stood there staring, trying to make sense of it. Why would a company need a delivery to a ghost town? Then the back doors started. Loud, violent, like something inside was throwing its whole weight against them. I backed away, nearly tripping over my own feet. The whole trailer rocked. I could hear screams now, real ones. High-pitched, panicked, human. Please, let me out. I'm still alive. Please, don't let them take me. The voice sounded young. Maybe a woman? Maybe a child? I ran to the cab, fumbled for my phone. Still no signal. I debated turning around, driving back, but the road was too narrow to turn the rig. I'd have to reverse for miles. That's when the gate creaked open. I swear to you, I didn't touch it. The chain fell off like it had never been locked. The gate opened just wide enough for the truck to fit through. I should have left. I should have said to hell with the money and gotten out of there. But something pushed me forward, something I can't explain. I got back in the cab and rolled through the gate. Grey Pines was worse up close. The buildings looked burned, windows were blackened. Trees grew right through old houses. The air smelled like rust and mildew. I drove slowly, following the dirt path to where the GPS had marked the mill. It was still there, barely. A collapsed wooden structure with a tilted smokestack and broken lights. As I parked, the trailer fell silent. No more banging, no more whispers. I waited, staring into the dark, until I noticed figures. At first just one, then 3, then 5. They stepped out from behind the trees and broken walls, all wearing old-fashioned clothes, torn flannel, dresses stained with dirt. Their faces were pale, eyes sunken, but they moved like they were alive. One of them, a tall man with a crooked neck, stepped forward and pointed to the trailer. He didn't speak, he just pointed. I shook my head. I'm not opening that, I said. No way. But then I saw the girl. She stepped out from the shadows behind them. Young, maybe 16. Dirty blonde hair, white dress torn at the edges. Her hands were bloody. She looked right at me and whispered, "Help me." Same voice. Same whisper from inside the trailer. That's when the padlock snapped, on its own. Fell right off like it had never been locked. The doors creaked open an inch. Cold air poured out. I didn't move. The girl turned to the others and said something I couldn't hear. Then they all began walking slowly toward the trailer. The doors opened wide and inside. God help me. It was full of people. Frozen, curled in corners, eyes wide open, lips blue. Dozens of them. Some were missing limbs. Others had mouths twisted in silent screams. And at the center of it all was the girl, another version of her. Pale, dead, eyes open. She was already inside. I ran. I left the rig, left the trailer. I ran through the woods, tearing through branches, lungs burning. I didn't stop until I saw headlights on a distant highway. I flagged down a sheriff's cruiser, rambling like a madman. They drove me to the station, said the road to Grey Pines had been closed for years. Landslide wiped it out. No trucks had gone that way in dashcam footage. It was blank, no town, no people. Just a long empty road that ended in forest. The trailer, gone, never found. The company, Pine Ridge Timber, doesn't exist. Never did. So now I drive only during the day, never at night, never alone. And if someone offers me a load to a place I've never heard of, I say no. No matter the money. Because somewhere out there, in the forests of Oregon, that trailer is still rolling, looking for the next driver. And the girl is still whispering, "Help me." It's been almost 2 years since I escaped Grey Pines. I tried everything to forget what happened. The trailer, the dead-eyed girl, the whispers that followed me into my dreams. I sold my truck 6 months later, thought I'd finally walk away from the road. But the nightmares didn't stop. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, hearing the banging on those frozen doors, the soft voice whispering help me from somewhere inside the walls of my bedroom. Sometimes I'd see her, the girl in the white dress. standing at the foot of my bed, head tilted, lips cracked and blue. I started drinking, at first just to sleep, then to function, but no matter how much I drank, I couldn't drown out the guilt. Because the worst part was, what if someone was in that trailer? What if I left them there, locked in a prison of ice and silence, begging to be let out? And what if that girl, the one I saw dead inside, had only shown herself to me because she wanted to be found? Because she was trapped in something much older and much darker than I could. I tried telling a therapist. She said I was suffering from a trauma-induced hallucination rooted in unresolved guilt. Maybe she's right. Maybe my brain made it all up to cope with something else. But then, 3 weeks ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, no postmark, just my name, Hank Mercer, written in shaky pencil on the front. Inside was a single photo. It showed my rig, the very same Freightliner I'd sold. Same license plate, same scratched red cab, parked in front of the Gray Pines mill. Only this time, the trailer bodies spilled out like meat dumped from a freezer truck. Pale, bent at wrong angles, eyes wide, their skin frosted with thick layers of ice. In the center of it all stood the girl. But she wasn't the same. Her face was rotted, mouth stretched into an unnatural smile. One eye was gone. In her hand she held a clipboard. Mine. I should have burned the photo, tossed it and never looked back. But something inside me cracked open. Curiosity, guilt, or maybe something she planted in me that night in the woods. Either way, I knew what I had to do. I was who still trusted me. Told him I was going to haul firewood to a mountain town for a private buyer. He didn't ask too many questions. I loaded it with nothing. Empty trailer, no reason to bring anything in. I needed answers, not cargo. I packed a gun, a flashlight, a crowbar, and a cross I hadn't touched since my mother's funeral. The drive felt like a funeral procession. Every tree, every curve in the road felt familiar. I reached the same fork where my GPS had died last time, and turned onto the narrow road leading to Gray Pines. To my surprise, it was open, still broken and overgrown, but drivable. The trees were thicker, like they'd grown over the years, trying to hide something. The air smelled wrong, like wet stone and rusted blood. I shut off the radio this time. No distractions. I wanted to hear everything. The sun was setting when I reached the gate. It stood open like before, the sign still hanging crooked, "Welcome to Gray Pines, population 0. But someone, or something, had added fresh paint. A new word written in black, "Stay." The chain lay on the ground, cut clean in half. I rolled through slowly, headlights lighting up the decay. The town looked worse than I remembered. Entire buildings had collapsed. Trees now burst through asphalt. The mill still stood, leaning more than ever, like it was bowing under a heavy weight. I parked in the same place I had before. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself out of the cab. The cold hit hard. It was June, but my breath misted like midwinter. I opened the back of the trailer, empty. I stood there for a moment, staring into the dark, steeling myself. Then I turned around. She stood about 10 feet away. Same white dress, same dirty blonde hair, but her face was cracked. Not just dirty, cracked, like porcelain. One cheek shattered, blackness leaking from beneath. Her arms hung stiff. Her eyes were too wide, too empty. "Why did you come back?" she whispered. I didn't answer. She took a step forward, her bare feet leaving frost on the ground. "You left me, left all of us." I held up the cross. I didn't know. I didn't understand. A horrible dry sound like bones clicking. "But you knew something, you heard us, and still you ran." Figures began to emerge from the trees again. Not like last time. These ones were decayed, rotting, hollow-eyed, and they were angry. Their mouths opened and closed, silent. Their hands twitched like broken claws. I backed toward the trailer, heart thundering. I had no plan. I was just a man with a ghost problem and too much guilt. The girl tilted her head. "You brought a trailer?" "Yeah," I said. "This time, it's for you." I grabbed the crowbar, swung it hard into the frozen ground in front of me. "If you want to keep riding," I said, "then climb in, but I'm not hauling this nightmare anymore." Something changed in her face, some flicker of sorrow, or maybe confusion. The other figures stopped. One by one, they looked at her, like waiting for a command. She looked at me, her lips trembling. "I can't leave, he won't let me." "Who?" I asked. She turned slowly and pointed to the mill. And that's when I saw it. A shape, tall and thin, standing in the broken window of the mill. It had no face, just darkness. A moving shadow, but it radiated something I can't explain. A hunger, an ancient cold that reached deep into... He feeds on the forgotten, the girl whispered. On people like me. Lost loads, missing travelers, every trailer that takes a wrong turn. He eats the memories first, then the rest. I understood then. Gray Pines wasn't just haunted, it was feeding. The whole town was a trap, an engine. Something old had claimed it, turned it into a place where time twisted, where the dead could never leave, unless someone remembered them. I stepped forward. What's your name? She blinked. What? Your name, tell me. She hesitated. I repeated it, loud, firm. Emily. Emily from Gray Pines. You're not forgotten. I remember you. I remember all of you. A wind howled through the trees. The thing in the mill screamed, not with sound but with pressure. The ground trembled. The air turned white. Emily screamed, clutching her head. The other figures backed away, moaning. I raised the cross and shouted again, Your names matter, you are not lost. Then I threw the cross into the mill. It hit the base of the smokestack and exploded in a burst of white. The shadows screamed, the trees bent, and Emily collapsed. When I woke up it was morning. The sun was shining, birds were singing. My truck was still there, but the mill was gone, just ash and stone. Emily was nowhere to be seen, neither were the others. But I knew what had happened. They were free. I drove back down the mountain, never looking in the mirror. The cold had lifted, my hands were steady, and for the first time in 2 years I didn't hear. I still see her in my dreams, standing in the light this time. She's smiling. And when I ask if she's okay, she just says, thank you. I don't take jobs anymore. I live by a lake now. Peaceful place, but sometimes I see trucks go by. And every once in a while I hear of one that vanished up north, some lonely highway, some forgotten town. So if you're a trucker, and someone offers you a job to a place that doesn't show up on the map, don't take it, because he's still out there, waiting for the next lost load. Go back to trucking, and I haven't. But I needed closure, not just for Emily, not just for those poor souls frozen in that cursed trailer, but for myself. I couldn't live the rest of my life wondering if that thing in the mill, that shadow that fed on the forgotten, would ever come for me again. So I made one last stop, an unmarked county office in Oregon, the kind of place where dusty files go to die and no one asks too many questions. I paid a clerk a few $100s under the table to look up old maps, land records, and newspaper articles about Gray Pines. Most of it was gone, burned in a fire or lost in transfer. But a single article from 1947 caught my eye. The headline read, Lumber Mill Collapses, 32 Dead, Town Abandoned Overnight. It mentioned a cave-in at the old Pine Ridge Mill during a snowstorm. Survivors claimed they heard voices under the ice. Officials dismissed it as hysteria. But one sentence stood out. A young girl named Emily Beck, age 15, is still That was Emily. She was real. I photocopied the article, folded it neatly, and drove north one final time, not to the town, but to a church cemetery 50 miles from where Gray Pines used to be. I found an empty patch of ground near the trees. Quiet, peaceful. I buried the article there, wrapped in plastic, under a wooden cross I carved myself. I wrote her name on it. No dates, just her name. Emily Beck, not forgotten. And with that, I let it go. The road to Gray Pines has since been reclaimed by the forest. No GPS leads there anymore. The map shows nothing but green. The gate rusted shut again. The wind no longer howls at night, and the dreams are fading. No whispers, no frozen voices, just silence. Sometimes when I close my eyes I picture her, not the ghost, not the cracked face or empty stare, but the girl she might have been, smiling, free, a life restored if only in memory. I'm just a man with a story no one believes. But if you're a driver, and you hear knocking from your trailer, don't open it. And if someone whispers from the cold begging you to help them, because might be the only way to save their soul. As for me, I keep the wheels off the road now. I sit by the lake and watch the sun rise, and every morning I whisper a name into the wind. Emily. The road is closed. The story is over.